This is my Outfeed table. I made it over the past few weeks, and I figured I'd make a video about it. So stay tuned, and if you like it, follow, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. So thanks, and come hang out. Like any good YouTuber, I already made part of the frame for this build off camera. So in this scene, I'm starting to attach the legs. What I'm doing is I'm pre-drilling for screws, and then I'm just gonna put in some heavy-duty construction screws meant for interior use. The lumber I used for this is just your standard 2x4s that you can get from any of the big blue or orange box stores, or the green one if you happen to be in the Midwest. One of the easier ways to attach this stuff is if you use a clamp and a block in order to hold your pieces in while you're screwing them. It's really hard to do this without a second set of hands and keep your legs from moving while you're screwing them in, so this is a nice way to make sure everything's lined up. Alternatively, you could just clamp the leg to the assembly, but then you need to move your clamp out of the way if you want to put screws in the face of whatever board is holding the clamp to your frame. You can also just clamp your leg to the frame and then put one screw in, take your clamp off, and then proceed to put the rest of the screws in everywhere else you want on your leg. I didn't really have time to go get some heavy industrial feet, so I just went to the local blue box store and got these nylon furniture leveling feet, which aren't the best, but at the same time, all I really need them to do is level the table until I shim it. And in this scene, I just didn't have a hammer available, so instead of using a hammer, I just grabbed the nearest 2x4 nearby and put that in. Now that all the legs are attached, what I did here is I flipped the assembly upside down back onto my table saw with a piece of plywood underneath it, and I'm attaching the top frame to the legs. This is cross bracing that will not only help support the top of the table, but it'll also help support the legs towards the middle of the table and keep the top from sagging. These are ribs being cut for a polk worktop. My plan is to make sure that the top of the table is as flat as it can be, because the ultimate goal is for it to be an assembly table. Now I'm using my fancy new Festool track saw to cut the tabletop down to size. Hi. I didn't film much of this because, to be honest with you, I didn't really have a plan, but I figure I'll show you now. I got an Outfeed table. And what I did is I just kind of kept the bottom open, so that way if I want to put stuff under here, I can, like dust collection. But this is what I'm proud of. Look at this. Look at this. The reveal on this is like 1/8 of an inch from the table saw, which, for you laymen, is very good. It means that the table saw is almost the same height as this, and this is slightly lower, which means that stuff coming off of the table saw won't catch on this table, which is really good. So, yeah, happy Sunday. Oh, and don't walk into blast gates. Have a good day. Hey again. So I'm making some progress on all the accessories for this thing. So give me a sec. This is going to be the front for this, and what I'm doing is I'm routing in tracks for these micro jig dovetail clamps. So I got one track across the middle, and then I am spacing tracks every 6 inches. That'll go on the front here. I'm probably going to carve out some of these windows just so that way you can clamp from the top of the table too. But anyway, this is the other thing I did. That's a French cleat back there, and I put this Festool track saw and the sander there, and the Festool track saw is on like a 45-degree angle, and I didn't do that for the sander because I was lazy. But anyway, making progress. And here it is at least the front part done. So each of these windows is carved out so that way you can clamp to the tabletop if you want. And I can shove little things in here if I'm working down here, like a tape measure or a square or something like that. I also ordered some black Formica for this because I'd like to have a nice, slick, fancy looking top. A couple more things I got to do before it's done. I got to route a miter slot here. This is my router table. And believe it or not, I do actually use the miter slot for my router table. And then I have miter slots that need to be cut in the normal spots too. But I'm gonna wait until I get the Formica and everything else to do that. So come hang out. Thanks for watching. Bye. Well, I did it. All melamined. I even fixed the edge. Pretty happy with it. It's a little bit over there that's a little high, but otherwise pretty damn slick. Can't complain. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to route in some channels so that way I can use my miter sled at the router and use miter sleds at the table saw too. So I'm just using the double stick tape method where you put tape on either side of the thing you want to do and the template piece you want to use. In this case I'm using some plywood. What you do is you just put accelerator on one piece, put glue on the other piece, and when you stick them together, it should form a pretty good bond that should hold up for at least the routing you plan to do. If you do this yourself, you really want to take the time to line your template up correctly. Otherwise, you're going to be cutting outside of your line or desired area, and it's not going to look as good. Now I'm using a bottom bearing flush trim bit from Bits and Bits, not sponsored in case you want to sponsor me, Bits and Bits, to route out the channel and get everything cut nice, hopefully without messing it up in the process. Now I'm checking to see if my miter slot is deep enough for the actual miter slot that's in my table saw. One thing to note is that if you decide to do this before your contact cement dries, you may need to re-adhere your Formica to your top. Alright, so I put a miter track in to my outfeed table so I would be able to use my miter gauge over here at the router table. So I just used a template bit from Bits and Bits. They're really good bits. I was holding out for a while, but they are good bits. So this way now I can actually get my miter gauge in this table if I ever want to make a pass over here at the router table. And the only other thing I plan to do are a couple more miters over there, and then some amount of holes in the table for general material holding. Coming along! This is the same routing procedure as before, just this time I'm going to be routing in miter slots so that way I can use miter bars at my table saw. This is from a couple weeks later. The contact cement is dry, and I got this drill press so I could put a bunch of dog holes in the table. So that's what I'm doing now. What I'm using is a 7/8 inch Fastener bit to put dog holes in this table. What I did also was use some blue tape to put down before I started drilling in order to keep the Formica from chipping at the edges with the bit. After the fact, I realized that no one really makes a 7/8 inch wide dog to put in this dog hole, but I really only plan to use this for clamps, so I think it'll work fine. Now I'm chamfering the edges of the dog holes in order to keep the Formica from chipping out when I go to use these dog holes in the future, and also it just looks a little bit cleaner than having just the straight hole. Close-up shot of how refined that look gets once it's done. So here it is. These are 7/8 dog holes that are 4-inch on center, and I staggered every other row because I felt like it. But anyway, the point of these is this. Now I can clamp stuff in the middle of the table. And then at some point I'll get some 20mm or 7/8 dog holes or dogs to actually put in here as stops. But for now it's done. I mean, I'm pretty excited about it. I've got these 2 slabs that I've had for a while now. They're asking to become something. I'm thinking a coffee table, not exactly sure, but now that I have this great big work surface and ways to clamp stuff to it, the world's my oyster. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Hope you have a great Friday, and have a great day.